time for dads now. Look, it's all about dads. I don't want you talking about anything but dads, 'cause it's all dads now. It's inside dad.
Are we going to have to do a special episode on the Conclave when that comes out?
Yes.
An emergency.
Emergency Pope movie.
Yeah.
It's going to be with Ray Fiennes.
Yeah. It's all the popes, fighting popes.
The true fathers of us all.
Oh, yeah. They're the ultimate daddies.
This fucking sexy ass Pope. Yeah, get in here. Get inside this dad.
And it's about like the truth about the Catholic Church. Dads fucking love the truth about the Catholic Church. Yeah. Slap a wig on Tom Hanks. We're good to go.
Oh, it's so much daddy.
Mm-hmm.
This is Inside Dads. You heard the intro. I'm Abe Epperson, and I'm joined with Dave.
Hello. Hello.
Hello, Dave.
Hi to all dads and future dads.
This one's for you. I think this is the 13th one we've done.
Yeah.
This is Inside Dads. We talk about dad movies. We love dad movies and dads, and we were like, hey, for decades, Hollywood spit back an image of a rough definition of what a dad should be, and they are these types of movies that we've all seen. The internet loves this meme. But like, what is it? What is a dad? What is a dad should be?
Right. What are the specific, like, what are the ingredients for a dad film?
What does Hollywood say this what's make a dad?
Right.
Is
like
it-
when you make mac and cheese, you know, like, okay,
We got Mac.
and cheese, but like, and then there's variations, right? Where you're like, you can have 6 types of cheese. You can do, is like fettuccine Alfredo technically a
Is
mac and cheese?
paprika in the mix or not?
Right. Like there are other ingredients you can mix. Oh, I want mac and cheese after this.
Yeah, dude, let's get some.
Yeah. So like we're breaking it down to like, what are the foundational ingredients plus the
Right.
supplemental ingredients?
And we realized it's not just genre. It's not like you can just say all cowboy films or all
Yeah.
war films are dad movies. They're not. There's a very particular type of genre that is a dad movie.
It doesn't even necessarily need, like I pitched this to you. I think I watched Aaron Brockovich recently, and that's a movie starring a woman, and I'm like, this is a dad movie through and through. Like it doesn't even need to be like a male representation even.
No,
I think.
it's just a philosophy of how to be
Yeah.
at times of during times of conflict and strife. How do you operate in an emergency?
Right. I in fact, this movie has one of the biggest daddy actors and one of the biggest daddies played by Ashley Judd. Ashley
right.
Judd is a dad actor.
She's a dad in the dad.
She's always been a daddy. She makes so many dad films. This is a double dad film. She has made 5 movies with Morgan Freeman.
Yes, she has.
Yeah, and those are 2 big daddies on the screen.
Mm-hmm. And I love to watch him.
Yeah,
It's she's not in Along Came Spider, but she is in High Crimes,
she is.
which is not an Alex Cross joint. So yeah, we wanted to cover. Let's get inside this, Dad. Let's talk about the film of the week, which is "Kiss the Girls"
named after the song
from 1997.
in Little Mermaid. Yeah.
Ay, 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 ay.
This is as 90s thriller as it gets. Like it is it's a serial killer thriller called Kiss the Girls. It's immediately in the title, women are in peril.
Because it's just so dad. After
Yeah.
watching this, I didn't realize how dad it was when we initially chose it. But Alex Cross, we knew that the Alex Cross franchise, written by James Patterson, and Along Came a Spider is one of them.
Yeah.
Also, Tyler Perry was in a new one just
This is
called
the first though.
Alex Cross, I think.
Yep.
There was a movie recently. So like
There's a new TV show coming.
and he's much new TV show. That's what I meant. He's much like the Jack Ryan. Like he's this character who just is emphatically dad that we can it's like pulp dad novels basically. because they're always like Dan Brown, like we mentioned earlier. It's just regurgitating the philosophy of daddom.
The DNA is daddy. It's we haven't done Jack Ryan yet, I don't think, and we have we.
I don't know.
We will.
It's been
if
a
we
while.
haven't, we fucking will. But like it's that certain thing where Jack Ryan has specific things that makes all his films daddy films. He's always underestimated because he's a CIA analyst. He's always he's an analyst, so he also is wicked smart. He has guile, and there's certain things like that where Alex Cross is like part of his DNA is that he's fundamentally cool. I want to talk about his superpowers in this because he has one clear one. And like he's underestimated. He's a detective. He has to solve stuff. He gets involved in it, so he gets to do action daddy stuff. This is also a 90s thriller, which is fundamentally very dad. To the point that, can I spoil it? I can spoil it.
Spoil it, because we're going to walk through the movie.
This movie seemingly knows it's a 90s thriller because it introduces Tony Goldwyn and Cary Elwes, and it knew it needed to introduce both because otherwise you'd know who
Evil
definitely
honkies.
the killer is.
Yeah.
Because it's like, well, if you have Tony Goldwyn, he's definitely the killer, or Cary Elwes, he's definitely the killer. And then it does something fucking crazy and goes, oh, you were trying to decide? It's both of them,
It's
motherfucker.
both of them. And it's not like Scream where they're working together. They're just two serial killers who know each other.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, more on the Alex Cross. Like, it's also the interdisciplinary aspect of a lot of these. We carve even like something like Armageddon, where it's like, I'm a driller, man. All I do is drill. And
Right.
they're like, what if you were an astronaut too? He goes, oh, fuck.
Yeah.
Alex Cross, just like Jack Ryan, it's like he's a forensic psychologist and he's a detective. He's a doctor detective, just like Jack Ryan is an analyst and a field agent, because we need that interdisciplinary like sauce. It's like the sum is greater than the parts, you know, like he is specifically badass and cool because he like not even one job can confine him.
No.
Which is how we kind of intro this movie. I just want to jump right in and talk about this scene.
All right.
Which
Well,
is like
I already have to back up and talk about the credits.
Yeah, let's hit me with the credits first then.
Because the credits, the most 90 thriller thing, right? Because it's like negative filter. That negative filter where it's like a shot of a woman and then negative. Fire. There's like a fire gif in it. Spying through windows, and it looks like a fucking multimedia slideshow that your dad would make. That's what I liked about it. Yeah. It's like, this looks like it was made by someone's dad, and it was great.
Yeah. It's got huge Encarta energy.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's fantastic. Tells us exactly the tone of the movie that we're in, which women be in trouble.
Yes. They are really in trouble in this
and
one.
then we're and we get the voiceover of Casanova, who, by the way, I know what they're doing here, and I think it's brilliant, and I think more movies should do this when they have their killer, like, have, like, a narration, or he's in the movie before we're revealing. It's not like Seven, where it's just like, oh, he's just in the background, and we don't know who he is.
Right.
Clearly, the voice is Tony Goldwyn.
So apparently, I looked this up. Like, for some cuts, they had a different person do the voice.
That's so fantastic.
Yeah. And for Scream, they did a Scream sitch, you know.
They had multiple people and did different cuts just to keep you guessing.
And I guess, later they did Tony Goldwyn, or they had an alternate or something. But
As a red herring. Yeah.
It works because you never see Tony Goldwyn, meaning that
until later. You don't hear him talking.
You establish him as the killer. So It's like, they do both. They do the twist where it's a murder mystery, you don't even realize it, where someone you've seen is the killer. Mm-hmm. And then also the killer is a random guy.
We'll talk about that specific because I do think it gets a little convoluted to a point. The red herrings happen a little late, but you need to have those in like a murder mystery at this point, according to the 1990s.
Yeah.
But I want to talk about the scene where we introduce Morgan Freeman as Alex Cross, which is, as I was saying off mic to Dave, in my opinion, the most dad scene, according to our unified dad theory, that I think we've covered yet. And
Yeah.
I'm including Master and Commander. These are all vibes, and they all have scenes that are like, yeah, that's extremely dad. But I do not think that we've seen a scene that, like, almost as if they were reading our playbook, just hits everyone
Yeah.
on the list. Let me break it down for you. It's pretty simple. Morgan Freeman is at a gym coaching boys how to box.
Yep.
And he tells them that the name of the game is perseverance and being the man who stays up the longest. And then he gets interrupted by a phone call by work.
Yeah.
And immediately was like, I'm on my way. I laughed
He's
so
also-
hard.
I think he might still be he might be in the leather jacket for this, but I would, yeah.
No.
It is the most daddiest thing. It is, look at this dad. Like when it happened, I howled too. I was like, oh my God.
Yeah, when
they
he got interrupted by
piled it
phone call
on.
and he was like, I gotta go.
Daddy's gotta
I was
go,
like,
kids.
Jesus Christ. Because it's got, like, we're gonna get into what our unified field theory of dad is. But like the gym is a particular, like, it's camaraderie. It represents physical fitness and virility. Coaching boys, just being a coach is like a huge touchstone.
Yep.
But specifically molding men is like a thing that we love to do with these stories. Perseverance and stick-to-itiveness is like our superpower. Like
Yeah.
that is what we preach to dads preach to
Yeah,
dads.
we know exactly
about,
what kind of dad he's going to be from this.
and obviously getting your work, like your life,
Having a gadget.
being interrupted by work.
There's gadgets
That's a
in
huge
this.
thing.
Yeah, you forget
having a
cell
gadget,
phone. A
you
cell
know,
phone's a
pager.
gadget in this, you know, where
That's
it's
right.
like, oh my God, a cell phone.
Like, yeah, we're like, it's 1997.
Yeah,
This
later,
is not.
Yeah, the
expected.
internet comes in, and it's like, also
The internet
that's
is
a gadget.
used.
Yeah,
It's a gadget. Yeah, we love to be on our finger on the pulse. Anyway,
I want to note this is the beginning of one of his two super powers. In fact, the first 3 scenes of this movie highlight the 2 superpowers that he has.
mhm.
The first one is quietly observing and judging sports, which he does, I think, 4 times in this movie.
Yeah,
It
he
got
just-
gratuitous,
Yeah.
he keeps just
Basketball.
quietly watching sports happen.
Yeah.
I think
It's
3
'cause
times, 4 if you
We-
count pool.
That's dad's.
Yeah.
I mean, I silently watch sports all the time. So
Yeah.
this
Live
film
sports.
has me.
yeah.
Yeah, live sports. Yeah, that's right. I'm watching basketball games, pick up basketball games.
Yeah.
Fucking great. We get the first crime scene, which is just to show how fucking dope he is. And he walks in on the current crime scene, just taken over by the police. And the case is that a domestic abuse scenario where the woman kills her abuser, and he goes into the woman's room and finds
He smells booze.
he
He
smells booze.
detects booze by the scent,
Yeah.
which I was like, that's such a daddy thing to be like, I
Gotta
know
use
that.
gotta use your nose.
He's immediately so like he goes from sports dad and then he's like, I'm also cop dad, because he goes up on the scene. This
Mhm.
happens a few times. Everybody's looking to him, right? Everybody's like,
Yeah.
who? And then they say one of
this
vest,
reverence.
and he says, I don't think I need one. So it's like the guile. The
He's like, I know I'm gonna be okay. That's
Yeah.
not what this needs. It needs a lighter hand. That's the way of Alex Cross, because he goes into the woman's room and finds she's about to shoot herself, and then he uses sympathy and understanding as tactics to talk her down. Imagine Morgan Freeman just walks in your bedroom.
oh my God, I mention it every day. Yeah.
Just great.
He this is the little like reverence but disrespect for authority, because he shows her he's cool. He's like, I just want to talk. You can point the gun to your temple, you don't have to put it in your mouth. He's being cool. And then what they show is that he says like, oh, your husband abused you, so you'll be fine, you don't have to kill yourself, the system will work.
Right.
Like it's the like fuck
Well, not
authority.
only the system
like
will work.
it's the idea
I'll
of
make
like
the system work for you.
yes, and it's
Like, he says, I will make sure that all the things happen.
yeah, these pencil necks don't try you for murder. You
Yeah.
know, can I skip? So is that it for that scene? Because
Yep. Going to his sister's house.
yes, because this is where I realized the second superpower. So I want to number the first 3 scenes, right, that we see
Mhm.
him
Just bang, 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 baby.
in order of events. It is a scene where he coaches sports, and then a scene where he calms a woman, and then a scene where he calms a woman. And is that introduced his second superpower, the power to calm women, which he does throughout the movie.
Right.
Like they're horses. He's the
Yes,
woman
he's the
whisperer
woman
in this
whisperer.
movie.
He
Because
is.
this next scene is his sister being, her daughter ran off and he's calming her.
Yeah, well,
using
she's
his woman
missing.
calming powers.
His niece, a college student, has been missing for 4 days, and obviously her mother is distraught. And there's another cop there who's like, I called them and said, you know who I got? I got Alex Cross. You must know who he is.
Yep.
And they're like, yeah, send him over if you want.
His
Yeah,
niece goes missing, and then pure coincidence, they put him on the case that'll be the guy.
Well, I mean, he kind of strong arms his way in. It becomes like
Right.
a little bit of contentiousness, but like it's actually a red herring, which this movie is full of.
Yeah, he
one
drives
A Porsche.
Yep. Okay, thank you. He
He's so
drives to
fucking cool.
well, he drives to North Carolina in the Porsche.
From Washington D.C.
And at
in a
first,
Porsche.
what I wrote down is, oh, okay, so he's from North Carolina, and he was visiting Washington D.C. No, they say in the dialogue, he's from Washington, and he's driving a Porsche in North Carolina. Did he rent the car or did he drive there?
I think he so there's a
his
few times they
Porsche.
say in the movie like you made money writing a bestseller because you wrote like the Mind of a Killer book,
Right.
or whatever. So he does have money, but at one point they're like they don't want to flirt with that too much because they don't want to make him white collar.
Right.
So they want to be like. So that at one point he's asked, "You're like, aren't you a millionaire?" And he's like, "Far from it."
Right. Yeah,
so
they don't want him to be.
You have your
Yeah.
cake and you eat it too.
He-
He can drive a Porsche.
You know how like after fedoras got lame, every now and then an actor could still like wear
Pull
one.
it off.
Yeah, and you'd be like, damn, he is midlife crisis coded.
Yeah.
Like he has all the midlife crisis stuff, but since it's Morgan Freeman, you're like, no,
He's pretty cool.
he's
still.
cool. Porsche and leather jacket, he's
Yeah.
fucking cool.
So he arrives at the North Carolina police station, and they're immediately like, Psh, a doctor in a cop house.
Yeah.
We don't care. He basically sits for 4 seconds in the waiting room where they tell him to wait until he thinks, do they fucking even know who I am?
Yeah.
And storms right into their detective room they got there, and he examines the board of women that they got there. And Cary Elwes introduces himself, and he is Southern.
He is so Southern. He
Yeah.
is so Southern that it's literally a bit later, like we learn, but like
He's
is
Foghorn Leghorn up in here.
yeah, like he's the most Southern
say,
guy, and you
In
know,
the midnight of good and the garden of good and evil.
right? And he's Cary Elwes. Cary
Yeah.
Elwes has a fascinating career in that his first big role, he was the good guy, and then from then on, they're like,
Right.
no, you're an asshole.
You're an asshole because it works because it's Princess Bride is a storybook. The whole point of him is that you're like almost too pretty.
He's the rogue. He's
like
like,
your hair
"Aha,
is
yeah.
too perfect. That when we put him in real life, it's like staring at the sun. It's like you are too bright. You can't be next to James Gandolfini or whoever.
Right. I need this man to get killed by a tornado.
He needs to go.
Yeah.
You need to get killed by a tornado. That's right.
He's like the anti-dad. He's perfect. He's cocky. He's gonna underestimate Alex Cross.
Right, which we see that character archetype in dad movies
Yep.
literally every time.
We also got in this a
Fichtner plays it in Armageddon. Like
Yep.
it's all over the place, and it's always the same type of guy who's kind of handsome,
yeah.
but not ruggedly handsome like our boy Morgan.
Yep.
So yeah,
This is where we get another dad steps in. Like
So, yeah,
Ashley Judd's a dad, Morgan Freeman's a dad, and this is where a jump scare, Brian Cox shows
Brian
up.
Cox is a dad. It's crazy,
They're just-
and he's the chief. And they even make a joke. He's like, should I call you Detective Cross or Dr. Cross or Dr. Detective Cross? To which our hero is like, what does that even fucking matter when
Yeah.
we got all these kissed girls? And he's confronted with this kind of, the way that the interaction happens with him, like infiltrating and becoming a part of this, like the local police is perfectly dad. Because it's like, there's this respect that like, yeah, you probably know how to do your job. And we get the typical like cop movie thing
I wrote down
where
the
it's
line.
like, yeah, it's like, look, we're going to be really kind to you. You're going to get the Southern kindness, but I want a firm reminder to be said that you're not going to mess around in my kitchen.
Yep. Quote,
you're
make
just a
yourself
guest.
at home, but don't mess around in the kitchen.
And
Understand me?
Alex Cross is like, we'll fucking see Logan Roy.
Yeah.
You know, like gonna fuck. He does not answer. He does not respond to that
No,
because he's like, I'm gonna mess up all of your kitchen.
They're pissing on each other's dicks.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But there also has this like Southern charm, you know, Southern kindness that is like, Carrie Ellis and company are callous. It's a job to them and it's personal to Alex Cross. So that makes him better. But everyone's solid at their job. Like the point of these scenes are that they're to show that the police are fairly competent. It's just that this Casanova guy who writes letters has several girls in his custody, and he, even though he eventually kills them, the whole point is that he's just better, and we're going to need a brilliant doctor who solves brains to get the job done. But yeah, they're callous. He's like, I'm not, this is personal to me. It's my niece and stuff like that. So we get
He
that
doesn't
angle
know it's
too.
his niece yet.
No, he doesn't know. But
He
knows
suspects,
he suspects.
but until he talks to Ashley Judd. And I just want to point this out because it ties with the dad of it all. Alex Cross is above all else in this movie calm. He calms women and is himself calm, even when he learns that his niece is in fact kidnapped. And so that's all to say that like I was unclear at first because he never changes based on the information.
He's just like, okay.
Technically right now he just suspects because he's like talking to her boyfriend and stuff later. So it's like he doesn't know where she is.
And she probably didn't run away, but like her violin is like missing. It's stuff like that. But I love how the cops can't stop telling Morgan Freeman how fucking good this murder is. Like he's a real student of the game, which is not something that someone says about a rapist and murder.
Yeah, he like scopes out. They stalk women while talking about how he stalks women. And they're like, we're stalking women at this college campus, which is what he probably does. And yeah, the idea is like, yeah, he's dishonorable because he is a rapist who's kidnapping women, but he's wicked smart, you see. And so you need someone who's smart, like Alex Cross. Yeah.
He's particularly monstrous and wicked smart. Just, you know, straight out of, you know, Silence of the Lambs. And then we meet Ashley Judd, who's a doctor and a kickboxer.
Yep. She's so in danger because it's like, look at this guy scoping out these campuses, trying to find women, then cut to Ashley Judd. And you're like, oh no.
Oh no.
And she, by saving her, you save everybody she saves because she does surgery or doctor shit.
She does surgery. And our opening image of her is after she like does a really good surgery. She has to give bad news to families that it's like, it sucks and it's not always, it's not great. So it's like she's stuck in that moral dilemma of like trying to save people and being a hero, but also like, this job never gets easier.
The patient's a little girl because women are in peril no matter what.
No matter what. And I love that. And then our second scene is she spars in kickboxing against some goofus. Imagine getting cast for asshole face that needs to be beaten by Ashley Judd. At this point in the story, the asshole gets a cheap shot in, which is kind of on par of like what this story is about, which is that the asshole won, Judd 0.
Yeah. This is kind of, it's like the Expendables of dad film actors because Ashley Judd, again, and she's playing the hits. Like, even if you don't have Morgan Freeman, this would be her character, right? Like, she's a surgeon, boxer. She's an underdog. Like, it's all that. She talks, and then she's also like the pinup girl for dad films because she literally, after boxing, she's in the sauna with her friend, and she says, "You know what I'm looking for? The way my daddy looked at my mother."
Yeah, exactly.
She's like, "I want daddy fuck energy, please."
Please, a dad would solve everything.
Yeah, she's literally like, I want a man like my father, please.
And then cut to Morgan Freeman, and he's like, I look things over, cops.
Yep.
This isn't a murderer. He's a collector. And we also cut to Ashley Judd buying books for children to teach them how to be brave.
Does she also work at she's at the campus. Is she at the campus?
I think she works at she's around there.
I wrote that she's a college campus surgeon boxer who owns a 5-bedroom house and that she lives alone in. And I was like, I don't know what she is.
I just love the metaphor level. Like, can I buy a book of children?
Yeah.
for children to how to be like. I wish she went to a pawn shop and she was like, I need a pervert stabbing knife.
Yeah.
You know, and the owner's like, I got the perfect thing, Ashley Judd.
Yeah.
She also owns fish, which I noticed, and the most boring and responsible of pets.
Yep.
But that night, she's abducted by Casanova. And it shows that Ashley Judd can kick ass. She's a kickboxer. Like, she gets away from him. But Casanova's smart. He put her fish tank as like a wall at the bottom of the stairs.
Yeah.
So she like runs into it, and which kills her fish, which sucks. So
It's like, yeah.
It's a good little metaphor there.
The scene's like a commercial for a home security system. It's like classic, like they're going to break into your house and get you. I want to say throughout this movie, they have what I call the Scully dilemma, which is that in the X-Files, they want Mulder to be useful. And the most useful way to do it is to have him help or rescue Scully.
Yeah.
But Scully, they
needs to
know
be capable.
can handle herself. So they constantly make these scenes where Scully kicks the shit out of this guy. And then through some bad luck or something is like, oh no, he's going to get her. And then and so that's what they're doing with her. It's like, she should be able to just slam this guy to death, but we need her to get kidnapped.
Just fucking suplex on this guy.
Yeah.
But yeah, then Judd wakes up in a stone-walled room, completely like sedated, basically, like in and out of consciousness. And Casanova wears a mask, and he's like, I appreciate you, unlike most men. I love how smart you are, but there are rules. You need to love me. No escaping, no crying for help. Also, no kickboxing, which pisses her right off.
Yeah.
So we learn that Casanova has a side, like not a side business, but he is on the internet.
On the World Wide Web.
Some other pervert scans of Polaroids of her sleeping through the internet. And then meanwhile, Cross is still snooping for scoops.
He's watching basketball.
He's watching basketball. He mainly is interviewing a parade of men, some sympathetic, some distressed, others cold and aloof.
In this case, it's a key character. It's his niece's boyfriend, who I believe he first sees him playing basketball, and he breaks into his house, and he's like, I want to talk to you about my niece and her violin. And the guy's like a hothead. And I only say that because he basically starts dadding this guy real hard.
Right.
It's like a side plot where he begins to dad him.
Exactly. Meanwhile, Kate, Ashley Judd, yells out of the eye hole of her door, finds out there's several other women in this medieval jail.
So I have to back up. There's while he's looking, he's also he watches swimming. While he's investigating. Again, he watches basketball and then he watches swimming.
He's watching. I mean, it's more the swimming adjacent, but yeah, I'll give it to you.
Yeah.
But at this point, Kate does hear Naomi as one of the names, so she does have the information that Alex Cross will need later. While he's doing some casework, we cut to Alex Cross and Casanova. Well, he's like on the phone. Morgan Freeman's on the phone. Casanova slips a little nudie card under Morgan Freeman's door that's signed. And just want to note that Alex Cross just starts waving a gun around immediately.
With his shirt open for the mommies out there.
For the mommies out there. And he's just waving it around, and he accidentally puts the gun on an elderly couple who I think probably went home that night and plowed each other into oblivion.
Oh yeah,
just due to the thrill
tomorrow.
Yeah, exactly. And the detectives arrive, and because it's not a crime scene, but it's like, okay, so let's do some detective shit. And they determine that the trait that all these women have in common is defiance, and Casanova wants dominance over strong women. Meanwhile, Casanova attempts to punish Judd for talking to the other women, which I assume he knows this through some kind of surveillance, but we don't really get how he knows. And she gives him a sick-ass kick to the knee, or a sick-ass knee kick to the chest, dude.
Yeah.
Like, it's like on Bach up in here. And she uses this moment to escape into the woods that the structure is like in the middle of. And Casanova is just yelling, Kate, you need to come back and stuff. And she's trying to run away, and she gets boxed in because Casanova is like about to tie her up, but it's in front of this huge ravine or this, cliff drop right in front of a river. And she just leaps to her possible death.
She does a fugitive. For all the
Yeah,
dads,
she does
she's
a
like
fugitive.
she's doing it again. She's a dad. She's a daddy.
By the way,
she's doing fugitive.
this is one of the most impressive stunts I've seen in nearly any movie.
I looked it up. So Ashley Judd did most of her own stunts. This is the
Right.
one that they were like, absolutely not Ashley Judd. That is a dude in a wig who, as you can see, nearly brains himself on a rock on his
so
way down.
close to the rocks.
Yeah.
Like there's no way to fake it. That's what makes this like an insane stunt, is that the stuntman just like got really close to the wall.
Right. I assume it was planned a little, but I was imagining him being like, those rocks aren't a
Like,
problem, right? And they're like,
yeah,
it's fine, man. It's fine.
Well, he probably jumped in and was like, "Oop, that's a little closer than I expected,"
Yeah.
and they just ran with it. And they were like, "Well, we got to use that take. That take fucking rules."
Yeah.
Anyway, Cross and company visit her in the hospital because she's out now, and her body was found in the river, and she's fine, but physically, but that her doctor is all like, "You all can't talk to her yet.
Yeah.
She's got PTSD and she's in shock and she's in some kind of like coma."
But
And I don't know why she is. Like we did like drug scans and nothing is coming up, but it's clear something is in her system that is fucking it up. But the point is, cops, you don't go into her room. You can't talk to her because her body is shutting down. And Cross just sneaks up to the doctor and is like, "Hey, I know what you're saying, doctor to doctor. I can see her though, right? It's
Yeah.
personal.
I have
And
a
she's like,
certain superpower of calming
Yeah.
women.
calming women." And the doctor, she's like, "You know what? God damn it. I know you're working. You're a certifiable badass. You got it, champ."
Yep.
So Judd's asleep and she's like freaking out. And so once again, Alex Cross walks up to her, just touches her on her head.
He's
and
like,
she
you know,
smoothly goes to sleep.
he's like, you know what this probable rape victim needs? Me touching her.
Touching her, yeah.
In the hospital, but it's his power of calming women. He does
He's got this power.
Yeah.
It's so weird to me also that the scene does not need to happen because there's no, like, it accomplishes nothing. Like, he's like, "Can I
Yeah.
see her though? Like, can I talk to her?" And she's like, "Yeah, you can." But it's like she can't physically talk. So they just continue. The doctor just,
Yeah.
the doctors just continue the conversation. All we needed to see was, I guess, Morgan Freeman touch Ashley Judd.
I really think it's supposed to show that he's the woman whisperer, because what's
I
going to
think
happen
so.
in a few
Yeah.
scenes is he does a hypnosis on her. Like, his power to
Right.
calm women is so powerful that he can put them into a trance. He's like Dracula.
He is kind of like, he can make a thrall.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Cross hits the books and he's like, "I'm going to find out what drug is going on." And he does. He finds it. He finds Systol. It's a unique drug that wouldn't show up on the tox screen, but is clearly has the effects of it. And so they pump her full like a cocktail to like anti-Systol. It works. Judd wakes up the next morning and tells Cross that, "Oh yeah, Naomi was one of the names," and she does press like a few days later, and she tells Casanova like, "Bitch, I broke your rules," and then later Cross interviews her, and that's the hypnosis part that you're
Yeah.
talking about. She says what she remembers, but then she like kind of breaks down because she's like, "I left the others behind, and like I'm such a dad,
So he
that I
has to
needed
calm her.
save them."
He calms
And
her.
he has to calm her. So we get a perfect dad scene where one of the dads is actually a woman. Cross researches the selling of the unique drug, the Systol, while Casanova just has a bummer. It seems that he has just a bummer party. Like, Naomi's just playing the violin.
Yeah.
And the whole team, like the ragtag team of detectives, go back to the woods to try to find
Hold on.
Casanova's lair, but no, nothing comes from it,
One
which I think
moment.
is crazy.
One moment, I have to
Yeah.
note, because this is where it begins. This is a slow burn, but this is the moment where I believe somewhere off camera they deputize Ashley Judd.
Yeah,
Because
she's now
what
a part
happens
of the
is
crime
they just
solving.
bring her along for the rest of the film, the victim who is kidnapped, who would like any other situation, they'd be like, "Go home, be with your family, go to therapy." They go, she's like, "I want to get this bastard." And they're like, "All right, you want like a gun?" Like, that's what they just like take her. And now she's in the movie from here on. As I forgot, like, literally watching this film at one point, my mind was like, so she's one of the cops. And like, and then I had to remember,
She's also-
like, she's not a cop. She's never been a cop. They
She's
just
a
forget.
kickboxer. if you're good at kickboxing, they give you like you can be a cop. They give you like a little badge that says kickboxing cop.
This is also where Morgan Freeman continues to dad that other kid, the boyfriend. He's also in the woods with them.
Yeah.
And he starts mentoring him on being a dad.
And he's like, how to be a man and I guess be with my niece.
Yeah.
I want this scene to be ingrained in everyone's heads as they go to the woods to try to find what, because she jumped in the river. You can follow the river to where she was picked up and do the math and try to search an area.
Find this dungeon, yeah.
And I want to remember that this is something that they tried and they failed at.
Yes.
And think about this, because then we're going to talk about the next 30 minutes of the movie and return to this exact same point.
Yes.
Which is not great storytelling, but whatever.
No, especially when you find it, you're like, well, I could have found that. That's like,
oh, yeah. It was just like 5 feet from where I looked before.
Yeah.
So Cross tells Judd that, look, I got a lead. I did this research into this drug. A plastic surgeon about 2 years ago bought a shit ton of this drug. And so they start surveilling this guy. Is Dr. Rudolph.
Hold on.
Played by Tony Goldwyn.
What happens before this is something terrifying happens. And that is Jeremy Piven shows up.
Oh, yes.
He comes out of nowhere and he's like, hi, I'm Jeremy Piven. And they put him like alone in a car with Ashley Judd. And I'm like, get away from him. And spoilers, he's then shot and killed several scenes later.
Goldwyn kills Jeremy Piven.
Yep. And I think statistically he saves more lives than he took by doing that.
We don't even get a shot of the body. Like he just falls.
Early
Piven. He just gets shot twice and he just falls to the ground.
Yeah.
So they start surveilling him, and they realize he's kind of like he's acting murdery.
He's the worst. I was about to say he's the world's guiltiest man. He screams in his home and then goes to get a bunch of plastic tarp from his car.
And it's just like, that's a murderer right there.
Yep.
And Alex Cross is just calmly watching yet again.
Yeah.
But it leads him to this nightclub, which is where apparently Tony Goldwyn preys on women.
Alex Cross plays pool.
And this is where you get Kate and Jeremy Piven have like their little side scenes in the car because I think Alex Cross kind of acknowledges the thing that you're saying, which is you're not a cop. We're not going to send you in there.
Yes.
But Kate is, but we're still going to take you in the car. So it's like mixed messages. But clearly Kate is going to be like, I'm going to find my way to get in there. I don't give a fuck.
The idea is the first time it was help us find the lair because you were there. And this time they're like, help us ID this guy.
Right.
Even though he's wearing a mask. She does ID him in a dark bar. And they're like, well, let's whip out our guns and raid his house without a warrant.
She verifies based off how he strokes the hair of his, would-be victim.
Yeah.
And so Goldwyn then returns to the creepy, murder cabin that he's got in the woods, which, all these MOs seem to check out. But there's something that just is nagging at Cross because he's not as precise as Casanova is. He's unhinged. He's sloppy. And Cross notices. He's like, something's off here. But anyway, they break down the door because they're like, you're about to kill a lady or something. Goldwyn kills Jeremy Piven and escapes. and then we get a saucy hotel room scene.
So I want to circle back to this later. But yes, it's a scene where he is shirtless. She's tending to him. And he refuses going to the doctor, right?
Right. He's got a doctor right there, baby.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to say, like, this is the 90s, and this is a common thing. We start getting a thing in this movie, which I do believe is the movie. It's two things fighting each other, which is the need to have a romantic, sexy subplot is directly at odds with studios being terrified of depicting interracial relationships. And this happens a lot, I think, in this era. So it's like, can it be sexy, but not too sexy? Can she be like tending to him while he's shirtless?
Yeah, she's massaging his bruised ribs and shoulders that he got from Tony Goldwyn. And I forgot that Cross wears a big ass cross on his neck.
That's how he gets the name, right? That's his name.
Like Detective Bullet. It's just got a bullet around his. It's just like real dumb.
It's perfect.
But the two lament how now, because of the death of Jeremy Piven and the escape of Tony Goldwyn, Cross has kind of run this ragtag team because it's not his jurisdiction, and he wants to keep the FBI at bay. And his argument is that when they take over, it becomes a jurisdiction nightmare that takes multiple days, where everyone knows that they're on the lookout for this manhunt. So Casanova is going to be making crazy moves, and one of his moves might be just bail, which then he imagines his niece dying of starvation kind of thing.
Right.
So he wants to avoid, once again, in dad-like fashion, the system is going to fuck up.
The red
Even though it
tape,
has its
the
heart in the right
bureaucrats.
place, the bureaucrats are going to fuck it up. He wants to avoid that. That is no longer a reality for them.
Yeah.
Cross cannot attempt to keep the FBI at bay. The FBI is now involved.
Again,
Turns
he
out-
couldn't. He broke in. They busted in on Tony Goldwyn with absolutely
Yeah, they did
no
the same
probable
thing.
cause. They were
But
very
that-
lucky that he was the killer.
But the thing, yeah, he is, well, a killer, because that's what
Yeah.
we learn is that Goldwyn is just a different murderer.
Yeah.
When they break into his house, they find that he's got a murder shrine,
Yep.
but it's not Casanova's shrine. And Cross looks at this and he's like, this isn't Casanova. None of these things match. And there's proof that he's collaborating with another doctor. And we're like, maybe that's Casanova. Because he gave some of the Sistol to him. He's got a picture of him in his shrine. Turns out it's someone that Cross interviewed initially. The guy at the
Interrogation
meet.
scene.
Yeah, the swim
Right.
fan. And Brian Cox and local police learn that this tip is true. They're like, oh yeah, we know, because they're on the investigation too.
Right.
And so they go just to the doctor's house and they find a sex slayer. So they're like, this is Casanova, right? Again, this is not Casanova. This is just a guy who likes to have elaborate sex.
Incidental fuck monster.
Twice.
Yeah.
Twice it's amazing that
Now,
this
I wanna
movie does
know-
2 red herrings in the third act.
Yeah. We
It's
have
unheard of.
an interrogation scene, which is catnip for dads, where
Mm-hmm.
Alex Cross has to outsmart him or do something. And he says, the cop's watching, goes, what's he doing? And he says, he's doing what he does about Alex Cross. And he loses his cool for the first time and attacks
Right.
this guy. And I just want to note that for later, but it's a dark moment. He loses his cool. And yeah, this guy is, you're right. It's sex murderer followed by sex monster, where he's like,
Yeah,
hey man,
he's
it's
just-
all consensual.
And you believe him, none of these women are missing.
Yeah, I
He
mean,
just takes photos, but
he's a problem. He's
but
preying on young
he's got
college
dungeons
girls
and
and
stuff.
yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But it's not a murder dungeon. It's just a weird sex dungeon.
Yeah.
And we also get skipping along because that's kind of at the point that you realize that these are misdirects. You're like, okay, then skip to the
We get
next part.
an incredible revelation here. This is where Ashley Judd goes, oh, I didn't tell anybody, but I also remember there was flowing water everywhere, the sound.
Right.
And 2 things about that. One, she's like, oh yeah, I'm only just remembering that it was the only sound there and I didn't tell anybody. And 2, we know there was because she dove into a fucking river.
yeah, just 30
doesn't-
feet away from it.
Right. It doesn't give them any new information.
Also it's crazy to me because at this point, that waterfall is so unique that all you have to do is just go up the river until she's
Yes.
that's the waterfall. And then you're like, okay, so it must be in this
Yeah.
mile radius. Not even that, 500 meters
Right.
at this point.
Instead, he says we're going to look at every farmhouse and doghouse. He does a fugitive.
He does the speech.
yeah.
And I love that when we're cutting back and forth between Tony Goldwyn, who is now staying with Casanova in his lair.
Yeah, you learn
because
that-
he has nowhere else to go.
He's his Renfield. Tony Goldwyn
Yeah.
is his worm tongue. He's just silence you. And Tony Goldwyn's yes, master.
Yes, master.
Yeah.
But I love that they do the misdirect. So they've already done 2 misdirects in terms of plot, but they do a third, which is that you cut to Tony Goldwyn and you don't know yet that he's not Casanova,
Right.
but Cross has his suspicions, but we don't know. And you cut to Goldwyn, and he's like interacting with the girls in the same way that he was, that
Right.
Casanova was. So they have and it only lasts like a scene.
He's sitting in the
where they're
boss's
that,
desk.
maybe he's
Yeah.
Casanova, and then it's like, no, real Casanova's in the ceiling.
Yeah, and he's
talking.
like, "Why are you talking to them? Don't talk to them."
And they're
Like,
just
that's-
murder buddies. Turns out it's just like, it's just weird.
Yeah,
Just then, as they're murder buddies and looking back at when they were searching the river, as we kind of mentioned, they just decide to do it again.
Yep, and
That's
this
the-
time,
So nothing mattered in the last 30 minutes except Tony Goldwyn is now involved.
right, and this time they don't need Ashley Judd there. Like at this
They
point, they just
They
need
don't
a
need anybody.
bunch of cops, and they just go like spread out. They let Ashley Judd just wander off. They're like, "Yeah, you go look too." Like they're just treating her like she's a cop. Again, I kept forgetting
wild.
she wasn't a cop.
But apparently Alex Cross found it. They found it, and that they don't even show him finding it. He just opens the door at one point and it's like they're like caves. That's why they didn't show up on the satellite footage,
I think it's
because they were looking for
plantation.
a structure. Yeah,
It's an old plantation.
Well, it's the whole area is a plantation, like 100
Right.
acres or whatever. And this is like I mean, frankly, it's a dungeon, like that.
Yeah.
But it was a part of the plantation. But it was, clandestine. It was caves that were meant to be hidden, not to be in a structure like a hut or anything like that. There's clearly doors, but they're like, we don't really see it, but we get the feeling that they're like a part of the, natural kind of rocky terrain that we got going on here. Anyway, Cross finds the lair, finds Goldwyn in the hallway, shoots at him, but falls down a well of some kind.
Yeah.
And then he gets out completely dry, by the way. And he chases him down to the road, and he almost shoots some
A car full of teens, which I was
teens.
like, did you
Yeah.
think he was in the car?
Parties? Yeah.
Like, did you think he was a car? Why would you shoot at the car full of teens? I do
Right.
not know.
And so, yeah. And then he gets fired upon, we assume, by Tony Goldwyn, but it could have been Casanova as well. They miss, but he rolls down the hill into the woods. And as he's like looking for people, he's looking for the killers. The two killers happen to run by, and he just shoots immediately. He does
Yep.
not check to see if that's Ashley Judd or his partners.
Nope.
He just guns down a body, and it turns out it's Tony Goldwyn, but
Yeah, yeah.
Casanova escapes. Obviously, the women are then freed by the police, but there's no dice on the identity of Casanova because Tony Goldwyn dies and doesn't give up anything. So
Alex
now Naomi's
Cross.
back. Yeah. you go.
Oh, I guess I'm skipping a little ahead. He gets the ultimate reward for this, which is supper.
Oh yeah. So there's Judd hits on Cross. She's like, now that that's all over and you gave
Right.
your niece your violin back and all that, let's set up a date. And Cross is like, yeah, let's do that. But then he's like, I can't help shake the feeling that we don't have
Right.
Casanova.
Because
And
his
then-
dick works. His dick
Mhm.
works. But
Right.
again, the producers are like, I
Work.
don't know about this interracial thing,
I gotta work. Yeah.
but his dick has to work. So can we do both? And they did both.
So yeah, so we have Judd at home cooking a dinner for really no one at this point because he cancels. But then Cross notices in his own apartment, or I guess hotel room, that Casanova's writing and Carrie Elwes' writing
Yep.
are identical.
Turns
He's
out
not
that
even hiding it.
Carrie Elwes was not trying at all. That was a wild revelation that he was just like, yeah, they'll figure it out when they figure it out, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. This guy who's known for being a mastermind who can cover up everything, who covers up all of his DNA, wears a mask, is never, does an accent, all these things. And he's just like,
Who's a
fucking.
cop? A cop would know this. Yeah.
But signature should be same. In fact, I make a little thing. I'm not even a signature. I make a little logo at the bottom of my signature that like the Zodiac, and I'm just gonna
same.
do it on both me as a
Holy
cop,
shit.
which is totally not weird, and me as a serial killer. So anyway, that's fucking weird and hilarious. But as he realizes this, Elwes visits Judd's house, and Judd knows Elwes from the investigation, so she's like, I trust you. And by the way, we also know that there's several police surveillance out
Right.
there. Like there's cars.
For the record, this scene is another scene where I was like, oh yeah, she knows him from work. And it was like, wait, no.
No,
like, why
no,
does she even have this comfortable fucking relationship with Carrie Elways? They're acting like
'Cause of the
colleagues. And I'm like,
4 times they saw each other.
yeah, I'm like, she's the victim of a case he was working on. That's it.
I mean,
And she's just like, hey, man, come on in. What's up? Let's hang out.
yeah.
Let's have a
so-
little split diopter shot together.
Yeah, they love that in this. And so, yeah, as he kind of reveals, like, you know how you can really find stuff out about women is going through their trash.
Yeah.
And then Judd is like, that's fucked up. And there's this interplay with the knife, but she gets the knife back. And then we get Elwes literally does the meme. What are you going to do? Stab me?
Yes.
And then he gets stabbed.
He also drops his accent. So what he does,
Yeah.
he hands the victim a knife and then goes, and I'm him. I'm
I'm your
Casanova.
murderer.
I have decided to confess for no reason whatsoever.
Well, I think he
with
knows
cops
that.
outside, and I've handed you a knife.
I was very confused because also he like bleeds everywhere and he doesn't care.
Yeah, he
And I
just
was
doesn't
like,
care.
This bothers me. This bothers me because I was like, Casanova was spoken about in every instance as like a meticulously planned.
And
But
careful
then I
and
fucking
smart.
realized that it's not an inconsistency. Elwes just at this point is given up.
Yeah, he doesn't give a fuck.
Yeah, because he rips open the gas line when he's handcuffed to the oven by our kickboxer, but he like takes out a lighter immediately. Like he is like, my whole plan is just I want to kill you. And
Yeah.
I don't care if I die either. So it's not inconsistent. It's just like a
Lucky.
very.
It's lucky.
It's
that
very
like,
lucky
oh, lucky
that
he doesn't care.
He doesn't
checked
care.
out.
He's not trying
He's
to get away
quiet
with
quitting.
this.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And like he cut the phone line. He could unplugged it.
There was
but he
something
cut it,
really funny
you know?
about that scene where he's like talking to her and takes out clippers. I'm like, you brought clippers for this, huh?
Yeah, so he was really going hard. Like he knew from step one that he wasn't going to get out of this alive,
Yeah.
which is just that's crazy. Cross arrives in the nick of time as he's about to like set the lighter off, and he's like, and this is an awkwardness that I love that sometimes happens in movies because like the lighter is like when you're confronted with a villain who's like, I'm ready to die. There's not much you have power over, but the movie acts like Cross does have some power
Oh,
because
it's
he
like-
arrives and he's like, I won't shoot you even though I have my gun
Right.
on you because of the gas. I don't want everyone to die.
It's like the it's like a John Woo moment where they both point the gun at each other, and it's like you really just have to pull the trigger whoever's first, but they
Yeah,
act like there's tension.
Yeah, exactly. And I just want to remind everyone, notably, still, the police are just outside, like literally outside the front door. But Elwes gives this villain speech, we're all ugly inside, and et cetera, et cetera. Right before he lights the lighter, Cross, because he's a brainiac, uses a nearby milk container to minimize the muzzle flash, which was the thing that he feared would
Which-
set off the gas.
So much guile here. Mythbusters literally tested this
Oh, yeah?
because it had so much fucking guile. Turns out that a muzzle flash doesn't set off gas, period. So you don't need the milk. You just don't need the milk. But
Yeah.
it's guile, man. This is cool.
It's cool. I mean, it works in the logic of movies. And that's
It's a cool
the ending.
idea, yeah.
Like a movie doesn't give a fuck. It's like, yep, he's dead. They hug.
Yep.
There's no kiss.
Again, I'm telling you, 90s, even 2000s, this was still a thing.
For a movie called Kiss the Girls,
Very little kissing.
remarkable how few kisses
That's true.
we see. And that's Inside Dad.
And that's the daddy, as we
And
say.
so let's segue to the broader discussions about the unified field theory of dad. To the smoking room we go.
Yeah.
Dave,
I got 3 new ones to pitch you.
3 new ones.
The first one is only half serious. Don't trust Whitey. And I just couldn't help but notice that the villains in everything we've watched has been some honky. And in fact, this one, it's a literal plantation. So that's just a thing. Now I'll do the others because these are more realized in order of realization. So like this is the other one that I'm like, yeah, this is there, but I bet we could lump it in. Daddies are calm.
Yeah.
he doesn't even care when his niece is kidnapped. Like, he is so calm throughout. And you think about, like,
you
Bruce,
need to be level-headed, and
Right.
you can't be like the hysterical women, I guess.
right? And every movie we've shown, it's like Bruce Willis. He's about to die, and he's calm. The world's going to end. Michael Douglas, Annette Bening is yelling at him about fucking her over politically, and he's calm. The Fugitive, Harrison Ford, where the guy's like, "Hey man, you seen this guy?" And he's like, "Every time I look in the mirror, except for the beard." It's like, keep your head in the game. And when a dad isn't calm, it's like a pathetic nerd thing, or a low point. Matthew McConaughey in Interstellar cries. And it's like,
Right.
oh my God. In this,
3:10 to
he
Yuma.
loses his cool. And it's like huge. It's a huge thing.
3:10 to Yuma might have the best one for me, because like Christian Bale's wife's like, you won't sacrifice your own life to like get seek revenge.
Right.
You're a boy. Calm killers. That's what daddies are.
Right.
It's kind of fucked up.
Out of the rule, like, that one's more of a general rule. Here's my third and final one to pitch you. And I really think this one is a very specific rule that really makes sense in dad films. And maybe we explored it already. 3 words, Abe. Doctors are bad. So he shakes off an x-ray in this. He's like, I don't want an x-ray. The plastic surgeon is bad. Right. The Fugitive. What is The Fugitive about? Bad doctors.
Well, I think it's the idea. It's more the idea that it's no microscope is allowed. Don't inspect me.
Yeah.
Because I think daddies deep down, they hate
doctors, though.
Why is that?
Armageddon, the scenes where they probe them, the doctor scenes. Remember those?
Yeah.
American President, there's a scene where they literally say, like, the doctor's checkup, and he's like, screw the checkup, show me the score to the game.
I'm fine.
Who is in Master and Commander? Who does Paul Bettany play? The surgeon who is wrong.
No, you're absolutely
right. What lies? I'm not done. Hold on.
Sure.
What lies beneath?
You sold it.
He's a doctor. He's evil and does egghead doctor science. Robin Hood, the witch, is as doctor as it gets in that. Interstellar, who is Matt Damon, who turns on them. What is his name?
Well, they're all doctors.
Dr. Man.
They're not medical doctors either.
I'm just saying, at best, it's the judge, where doctors tell you you're dying.
Yes.
Doctors,
and you're supposed to, and
bad.
The judge, I would say, is progressive in terms of, like, your main character is someone who is like kind of like, he's a city folk, so he's he's more progressive. He's like, oh yeah, women can vote and stuff. You know, like, but like, it's so he's not allowed to dislike the doctors, but like Bruce Willis in Armageddon absolutely is. He's like, don't touch me with that stethoscope.
It's the just walk it off. It's like, I don't need a fucking doctor. I don't want to get an x-ray. The doctor will just tell me I have cancer. Like, it's that.
It's that. It's the plowing ahead, staying the course thing, like you're talking about. But it's also, I don't need an appeal to question my authority. I can question the code of ethics that is the system, but don't undermine my authority. And that's what a doctor does.
That's what a doctor does.
Can literally tell you, you are in bad.
You need to stop eating this food. You need to stop smoking. You need to stop doing this thing.
Yeah, taking away our freedom. Doctors take away dad's freedom.
Yeah.
To just fuck their own bodies up.
Yep.
And we're worth the cost. Like, that's the thing that I think a lot of these stories tell men is that is fine. You will die early. It's okay. We have to be okay with men dying early. Some men do. And that is just a part of the animal, you know, and so we kind of have to just live with it. And in fact, it's not just that, it's for the greater good.
Right.
And so it's interesting.
Yep.
That is a pretty fucked up
but
thing.
It's a thread
that's
so
what
far.
We're saying here. Almost all of these are flawed. Is flawed wisdom. I'm not saying that there's no wisdom in things like, you know, like being underestimated is something that we value in terms of, like, you know, it's a satisfying principle, or like that authority shall not be questioned. These are things that they have value. There is wisdom in a lot of these tenets that we're talking about, but they're all immensely flawed because they're built around kind of this male-centric system where we get to determine exactly how we operate in society, and is from arguably almost always from the side of power.
Yep.
Yeah.
Some of the things we've covered, like the work ethic, job over family, sacrifice, bootstraps. There's that in this.
Mhm.
Like his missing niece, he's eyes on the prize. He's still working.
Yeah.
Ashley Judd, despite having been kidnapped, is also wants to do the work, wants to be a cop. She can't be a victim. She has to solve her own kidnapping.
Linear storytelling is one that I keep thinking about.
That's
we
here.
still have yet to really have one that like tries to bend time or do anything formally interesting, because it's just chronologically works.
Yeah.
You know?
Lying for the greater good. I mean, he tells that lady that she won't go to jail for shooting her husband.
Yeah.
I would argue that's a lie. And then like police stings are just lies. You know, they're just big lies.
Well, yeah, there's an interesting one because we typically we've mentioned a lot, blue collar versus elite class. I wouldn't say that this really has that because it's all cops, but it kind of folds into the appeal at authority or the reverence for the system kind of observations we're making, where it's not that he is particularly blue collar as Alex Cross. He is the underdog, but it's not that the Brian Coxes of the world are the elite class, but it's this idea that anything that is like because it's your jurisdiction, because locally you're in control. Alex Cross as a character, as our dad protagonist, needs to be able to question you, even if you're competent.
Yeah, he's the
even
renegade
if you're doing,
of the
because he
cops.
has to be a renegade.
Yeah,
because he has to be. That goes along with the underestimated hero.
And again,
you have to be a rebel.
Yeah, and the bad guy, the bad cop, turns out to be like, oh, I'm the status quo cop. I'm like
exactly.
The Office. I'm the nerd. Well, Morgan Freeman's the cool guy with the cool car, who's like the rebel from out of town, who's like telling them. And then of course it's like, yeah, he's just a bad apple. It's not about systematic like problems within the police
Flaws.
and how they all abuse their wives or anything. It's just this one cop is bad, and he happens to be also like the Peckerwood.
Which is interesting
fucking like
that they do that. I wouldn't say. I don't know if I agree. Like, I don't know if it's always saying dad films are always saying one bad apple. I think that there is definitely, because it's the many iterations of. The system isn't that flawed, but it is conducive to allowing one to take advantage of the flaws, and that's where it breaks apart. So It does actually talk about a corruption, but the corruption is always and you're right, there is this bad apple, and that the corruption is always comes from men being, manipulating the system. But that's arguably always the case of any manipulation or any villainy.
I think it's vaguely libertarian at times, right?
Exactly.
Where it's like we have a reverence for the larger system, but also all these bureaucrats are just going to make it worse,
Yeah, hands off. I want my freedom as much as possible. There should be no unnecessary thing telling me what I have to do that I feel that I have determined, I have defined.
Realize there's a dad film we probably have to watch called Demolition Man.
Yeah, Demolition Man. No, that one's got huge anti-establishmentarianism vibes.
We did Gadgets.
Yeah, so in the end, the reverence for the system is not always bad, but when when it's something that like is in the way of the protagonist, in other words, it's like, no, the system has a thing in place, and that's why a lot of these stories are like cops or war stories and stuff, is because that when you have your one renegade get involved, they're always going to do the more right thing.
Yeah.
The righter thing.
I would say this one, it's less about the general themes is like, it's less about reverence for the system. There's less of that in this and less about the no gray areas that we did. And it's more like a celebration of, I think, guile and underdog stuff. Like Ashley Judd is established as like, oh, she's a woman, but she's a boxer and she's going to beat up this guy.
Right.
And like, she's an underdog. He's an underdog. It's all guile and like, ooh, how's he going to get out of this? He shoots through the milk. They're always underestimated in every scene.
Which it's alarming to me that off the ones that we have chosen, even sports movies, they're almost always like, how do we think of what's the thing that the killer team that's got the star quarterback won't be expecting? What's the trick play?
Yeah.
But like American President, The Fugitive, he's not good at being a fugitive, Master and Commander. I guess that's pretty standard, but I'm thinking Prince of Thieves, Robin Hood is a character who is known for guile. 3:10 to Yuma, the guy is seen as a coward. Heat, the idea is,
Right.
There's a lot of machismo in the movie Heat, but our main character with Robert De Niro is one who's like, I don't want to be a part of this life. Like, there's not, for dad movies, a lot of them seem to be centered on, or at least the ones that we're choosing seem to be centered not on the brute force aspect, not on the I'm going to Jack Reacher this shit,
Yeah.
but rather I'm going to Jack Ryan this shit.
I actually think that's a running theme. In fact, Demolition Man, the thing about Demolition Man is that that's why it doesn't initially feel or ping me as a dad movie. Because I do think one of the things in dad movies that happens a lot is, I guess what it is that it's harder to identify modern dad movies as thrillers and action merges together. Meaning that to me, like a dad action film it's a different beast that's more complicated, actually. Whereas thrillers you can kind of clearly figure it out by the use of guile. Where it's like the problem with a Jack Reacher is that you don't get to have guile that way. It's harder to be clever when you're making John Wick, which isn't to say that you can't. And those are definitely dad films, but that's all to say, like a movie like Demolition Man, they just sort of shoot at each other. And it's like, where's the cleverness? Needs to come out. The guile, the underdog.
Because
Fast
not
and
all
the Furious,
dads,
they're never underdogs. You know what I mean? Where it's like, doesn't feel like a dad film to me.
And that's the unique kind of, not hypocrisy, but like there's this strange kind of duality to dad movies where they are both kind of like, it's almost cult-like in its rules and behavior, like what it asks dads to act as behavior, like this is what's good, this is what's bad.
I think,
but at the same time, they have this tendency of like, we also need the camaraderie aspect where it's like, look, if you're not the strongest dad, that's okay. You're still a dad in my book.
And you can
that's what that statement is, right? That's why guile works.
Yes, I think this is also a symptom of the fact that like we don't allow actors to be like balding or like slightly overweight anymore or anything, which is that I think what makes a good dad film is it has to be a power fantasy for a dad, meaning that dads don't want to watch, well, I mean they do, but not for the same reasons, like The Rock fucking win every fight. They want to watch Brian Cox yell, and they can
nobody.
Yeah, they want to watch Morgan Freeman
Die Hard.
coach boxing, and they can say like, well, I could do that. Like they want to watch a scene and go, I could do that. And dad films have to appeal to that. We talked about that in Armageddon, where it's like, look at these guys being astronauts, a bunch of whatever roughnecks out of shape. So they can say the dad's like, look, it's like you're represented.
That's why Kevin Costner is the best dad actor. I think he is so far because Russell Crowe is he's too much of a brigand.
Early Russell Crowe,
there's too many, and like when we look at like things like Wall Street or even Han Solo and What Lies Beneath, and we get all these heroes that are like, they're too pretty.
They're too pretty. They're too muscular.
We need a fucking little bit of gut.
Yep. A little bit of balding.
We need to see that ass. We need to see that ass.
Yep. It's true. Like Kevin Costner is kind of the sweet spot.
Yeah.
And we already mentioned this, but I just want to note, this is probably the biggest movie for the rule women are in peril. Because
it's from jump, it's
most dad thrillers, because this genre is the crime thriller dad film, right? And crime thriller dad films will murder so many women. Women are in a bad place in this movie.
Yeah. the crime thriller is almost always, if it's a dad thriller, which a lot of these are. I mean, it's not in true crime, which I think is a little bit more unisex, but
like the general's daughter or stuff like that.
Yeah,
where it's
like
the
stuff
women are
that
gonna be
also
in great danger.
It's almost always, because it's a child, it's always what dads see, not as lesser than, but like whom we need to protect.
What do they value? What is what is their
the
treasure?
Titanic is going down, the women and children first.
Yeah.
It's the same kind of mentality in the crime thriller to get
Right.
the highest stakes out of the scenario. It's never like a dude in trouble,
Right.
which
in
why
turn,
Saving
like,
Private Ryan is hilarious, because in Saving Private Ryan, we're like, oh, you just got to save a boy. And then when we cut to the boy, he's like a boy. He's crying. He's a boy. Like, we need to take away the masculinity of the victim in order to save them, which is an interesting notion.
Oh yeah, I think war films get away with it more, where it's like, this is our brothers in battle.
Yes.
Like they're, but like it is kind of incredible, because it creates a system where it's just a series of films where you're like, can you fucking give women a break? I swear to Christ.
Yeah, exactly.
Could you stop constantly hurting women?
Yeah. Yeah, it happens in every one of these dad films here. It's insane how much of a trope it is.
Yeah.
And it crosses genre. It's fantasy adventure or a Western or historical adventure or a romance. Is women be in peril.
Women will be in peril, yeah.
Well, I think we've covered... Oh, you want to hear a few good things? That this... The trivia page for IMDb is one of the most hilarious trivia pages I've ever, because there's nothing. It is a dirge.
I think I looked at it.
Interesting information. I'm going to read some of my favorites. Ashley Judd and Tony Goldwyn previously acted in Cuffs.
I love Cuffs.
Morgan Freeman and Brian Cox played together in Chain Reaction.
Oh, I love that fucking movie too. They're playing all the hits.
Ashley Judd and Jeremy Piven both appeared in Heat.
Yep. All right, that makes sense too.
Morgan Freeman and Brian Cox share the same birthday, June 1st.
Good for them.
And Morgan Freeman, Tony Goldwyn, and J.O. Sanders are all left-handed.
Oh, that actually opens up a lot of stuff for the movie. That explains a lot.
And last one I'll read, Tony Goldwyn and Ashley Judd appeared as husband and wife in Divergent, 2014.
Good
so
for
just
them.
Some real bangers, There also is, actually, I'll do one more. I'm not even going to read it, but there's one that just says, filming began on April 16th, 1997 and wrapped on July 6th. Like, it's just real nonsense, real boring trivia. So
real
kudos to the
shit.
trivia people. Everyone's killing it. I think we're killing it.
I think we are too. I think we're beautiful and perfect.
I think we're perfect and beautiful. I don't think we know what one we're going to watch next time.
No, we can talk it out later.
We'll talk it out. But yeah, we'll see in like a month or so.
Yeah.
For episode 14 of Inside Dads. I have nothing left to say because we're so good at this. So I'm just going to let it play out.